Before we begin, tell us in the comments, which city and country are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Drop it below because this story isn't just about fear, it's about the moment the galaxy learned why you never put a human in chains. The Kryzal warship Spear of Ruin was silent. Not the usual silence of a vessel at war, the hum of engines, the faint thrum of plasma conduits, the measured stomp of insectoid boots in the corridor. This was the kind of silence that came after a predator had eaten and decided whether it still felt hungry. In the dim bioluminescent corridors, the air reeked of oil ozone and the sharp tang of Kryzal musk, a chemical marker they exuded when they were victorious. And by their standards, tonight had been a triumph. The first human, taken alive. Locked in the containment wing, she sat on the smooth black flooring, shackled at the wrists by thin, metallic tendrils that seemed almost alive, adjusting whenever she moved. The cell glowed faintly with pulsing green light from a vein of bioluminescent fluid that snaked through the walls, the ship's circulatory system, keeping every corner of the living metal alive. Lieutenant Kira Vance didn't move much. Her back was straight, her breathing even, her hands loose despite the restraints. Every Kryzal that passed by, their jointed limbs clicking softly, their mandibles chittering in amusement, paused to stare at her. She was smaller than they expected, not covered in armor or scales. No visible weapons, just still. It unnerved them more than they'd admit. Two guards lingered outside her cell, their segmented tails twitching idly as they watched. One, his chiton marked with crimson glyphs signifying rank, clicked softly to the other in the Kryzal tongue. She has not spoken since capture. The Terran weakness is pride. They always speak first. The other tilted his head, mandibles flexing. Perhaps she is already broken. A pause. Or perhaps she understands silence is power, dangerous for prey. The first guard let out a low, rattling hiss. Kryzal laughter. Prey? She bleeds easy, breaks easy. Her kind will scream before the cycle ends. Inside the cell, Kira's eyes flicked toward them, gray and unblinking. She didn't understand their language, not perfectly, but the tone, the arrogance. She'd heard it all before. She let the silence stretch another long minute. Then, finally, she spoke. Her voice was calm, low, measured. How many of you died capturing me? The two guards froze, their antennae twitching sharply. She hadn't spoken until now, and when she did, it wasn't a plea. It was a question. One they didn't want to answer. After a pause, the crimson-marked one hissed. Enough. You will answer questions soon, Terran. You will not ask them. Kira's lips curved, not into a smile, but something colder. Then I'll just count when I leave. That night, things started to break. It began as a flicker in the ship's security feeds. A brief pulse of static that cut through the glowing green overlay of their surveillance network, just long enough to draw attention, not long enough to trace. Then, the cell doors on Deck 14 cycled open for 0.4 seconds, just a blip, no escape, no alarms triggered. But every Kryzal who saw it exchanged a silent glance, their antennae twitching uneasily. The ship's AI assured them it was nothing. System settling. Energy bleed from the last skirmish. The malfunctions didn't stop. A gravity fluctuation tilted the mess hall trays, just enough to scatter them. A power surge dimmed the lights in 3 corridors, simultaneously, forcing a dozen guards to scatter in confusion. Door locks cycled without command input, hissing open and closed like something breathing. Kira stayed in her cell, her breathing even, her gaze fixed on the pulsing veins in the wall. Every time the lights flickered, her lips moved, barely, counting seconds. The guards didn't know she'd been implanted with a microviral seed before deployment. They didn't know the faintest hum, buried under the ship's living metal heartbeat, was her trigger code taking root. And they didn't know that every second they mocked her silence, the Spear of Ruin was becoming less their ship and more hers. By the time the lights died in the containment wing for the first time, the guards realized something was wrong. The green glow from the walls dimmed, replaced by a dull red pulse that wasn't part of any Chrysal design. The air grew heavier, the ship's circulatory veins slowing their pulse like something suffocating. The cell door hissed open with a slow, drawn-out sound, the metallic tendrils on Kira's wrists loosening like obedient pets. She didn't rush, she didn't make a sound. She simply stood, stretched her arms once, and stepped into the corridor. The two guards had their rifles raised. Her voice, when it came, was softer than before, almost curious. "Do you hear that?" The crimson-marked one tilted his head slightly, mandibles flexing in confusion. "Hear? What?" The ship hummed, deeper now, like a warning growl. The sound vibrated through the corridor, up their limbs, into their chitin. Not mechanical, not natural, something else. Kira stepped closer, her boots silent on the living metal floor. "That's the sound of your ship deciding it doesn't belong to you anymore." The lights went black. When the power returned, 30 seconds later, the cell was empty, the guards were gone, and the first human the Chrysal had ever captured was already moving through their ship like a shadow, every corridor flickering, as though the spear of ruin itself was holding its breath. Sometimes, humanity doesn't need to roar to be terrifying. Sometimes, it's the silence that kills you. The Chrysal command deck pulsed with unease. The spear of ruin was built for conquest, its living metal corridors breathing in harmony, its glowing circulatory veins carrying energy and data like blood. But now those veins flickered in irregular bursts, casting the deck in a strobe of sickly green and deep red. The crew's antenna twitched with every pulse, an involuntary response to the ship's dissonance. Commander Ryzek stood at the central node, his chitin gleaming under the bioluminescent panels. His mandibles clicked irritably as he addressed the ship's AI, its voice a smooth, layered hum that resonated from the walls. "Status." Ryzek barked, his tone sharp enough to echo through the chamber. "Containment breach? System failure?" The AI pulsed, a dim glow rippling across the console as it spoke. "Containment nominal. No organic escape signatures detected. Energy fluctuations are residual from." The lights cut out. For a moment the only illumination came from the lava seas far below, casting a faint, hellish glow through the translucent floor panels. Then, one by one, the nodes lit back up, each displaying a different deck of the ship. The footage showed empty corridors, no guards, no movement, only the faint pulse of those same irregular lights, as though the spear's veins had begun bleeding into the dark. And on deck 14, the containment wing, a faint silhouette moved past the cameras, not rushing, not hiding, just walking. Ryzek's mandibles tightened, a sharp metallic scrape. "Track her." The AI hesitated. The hesitation alone was enough to send a ripple of unease through the bridge. "Track her," Ryzek repeated, his voice low, the threat vibrating beneath each syllable. The AI's glow dimmed, almost sheepishly. "Tracking compromised. Systems report interference consistent with foreign code. Origin unknown." The chamber fell silent. The Chrysal didn't like that word. Foreign code. In their language it didn't just mean a virus, it meant something invasive, something alive. Ryzek's antenna tilted forward, the gesture sharp and predatory. "Bring her to interrogation. Alive. Now." They found her in the auxiliary observation bay, standing in front of the vast viewport overlooking the lava-lit void. She wasn't armed. She wasn't moving aggressively. She was just there, hands clasped behind her back, watching the stars. 5 Chrysal soldiers fanned out, their plasma rifles humming softly as they encircled her. The leader, his armor marked with the insignia of the ship's enforcers, stepped forward. "On your knees, Terran. You will answer the commander's questions." Kira turned her head just slightly, her gray eyes glancing over her shoulder, the faint glow from the ship's veins reflected in her gaze, making them look almost metallic. "You really think," she said softly, "that I'm the one trapped here?" Before they could respond, the observation bay's lights flickered again. The glow from the veins in the walls dimmed, replaced by that deep, unnatural red pulse. The hum beneath the floor deepened, vibrating through their limbs. The enforcer barked a command, antenna twitching. "Stabilize the..." The floor dropped, not literally, but the gravity beneath them shifted violently, sending two soldiers sprawling. The others staggered, their claws scraping at the living metal as the environment bucked like something alive. Kira didn't move. Her boots remained planted as if she were the only fixed point in the room. When the gravity settled, the enforcer aimed his rifle again, but the power cell flickered, its glow sputtering out as if drained. Kira turned fully now, facing them. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "This ship doesn't listen to you anymore," she said calmly. "It listens to me." By the time they dragged her to interrogation, 3 soldiers were missing. Not dead. Missing. Their comm signals still pinged, but their locations shifted erratically, jumping from deck to deck in patterns no Chrysal scanner could make sense of. The AI, once smooth and omnipresent, now stuttered when asked to clarify, its layered voice fracturing into faint static at random intervals. The interrogation chamber was a wide circular space, its walls lined with tendrils that pulsed faintly like veins. A single restraint chair sat in the center, surrounded by hollow glyphs that displayed her vitals. Kira sat there, her wrists bound, her breathing steady. Her expression was calm, so calm it drew more unease from the officers than any display of anger would have. Commander Ryzek circled her, his claws clicking softly on the living floor. His mandibles flared as he spoke, his voice low but sharp. "You are flesh, you are fragile, you are fragile, you are alone. Yet this ship fractures at your presence. Tell me, what have you done?" Kira met his gaze, her own steady, unflinching. "I let you capture me." The commander's mandibles twitched in a snarl. "You let," she interrupted, her voice level, cutting through his growl like a blade. "Do you know why Terran operatives rarely get taken alive?" Ryzek paused, his antenna angling forward. The other officers in the room shifted uneasily, their limbs clicking in faint discordance. Kira's lips curved just slightly. "Because you don't survive it." The lights died. The chamber plunged into darkness. Only the veins in the walls glowed, pulsing that same unnatural red. The AI's voice stuttered into the space, fractured and faint. "Warning. Internal systems compromised. Life support cycling, cycling, cycling." A low hum filled the room, deeper than before, vibrating through the floor, into their limbs, up their spines. The officers froze, their antenna twitching wildly. It wasn't just sound, it was directional. The hum was guiding something through the ship. Kira leaned back in the restraint chair, her voice quiet, almost conversational. "You think I'm the weapon here? I'm not, I'm the signal." The commander spun toward the AI node. "Purge it. Now." The AI's glow dimmed, flickered, then died entirely. For a long moment, the only sound was the steady hum of the ship's altered pulse. Then, from the far wall, a door slid open. Not by Chrysal command, not by any command they understood. The corridor beyond was pitch black, except for the faint, rhythmic pulse of red light receding deeper into the ship, like a heartbeat leading the way. Kira's eyes followed it, her voice calm as ever. "You feel it yet? That sense that the spear of ruin doesn't belong to you anymore?" The commander's mandibles scraped together in a metallic hiss, his antenna snapping back. "What are you?" Kira's gray eyes locked on his. There was no smile, no malice, just cold certainty. "I'm the lesson." Somewhere deep in the ship, alarms began to blare. Not the shrill mechanical cry of Chrysal systems, but a new tone, deeper and more primal. A warning the spear had never been programmed to make. And in that moment, every Chrysal officer in the room realized something terrifying. The first human they had ever captured was already turning their ship into a tomb. The Spear of Ruin had stopped feeling like a warship. To the Chrysal crew, it no longer pulsed with the confidence of a vessel built for conquest. It breathed irregularly, its bioluminescent veins dimming in strange patterns. Doors hissed open and closed without command. Vents sighed like the ship was exhaling, and the air itself carried a low, rhythmic hum that didn't come from engines or systems. It came from everywhere. It felt like the ship was alive, and it was no longer on their side. In the auxiliary barracks, 6 Kryzal soldiers clustered near the holomap, their antennae twitching in frantic patterns. Their voices, usually calm and layered with the smooth clicks of their language, were sharp and erratic. "She has infected the systems." One hissed, his mandibles scraping. "The ship cannot track her. She moves where she wants." Another snapped back, his claws flexing. "Then we hunt her manually. Sweep the decks. Cut power where she hides." The first soldier tilted his head sharply, his antenna lowering, a gesture of contempt. "Cut power? To her? She thrives in the dark. Haven't you listened? Haven't you seen what's left behind?" The third soldier, younger, his chitin still dull from fresh molting, leaned closer, his voice dropping. "What's left doesn't look like battle. No wounds, no weapons, just gone." The walls sealed around them. The lights pulsed, and then there was nothing. The barracks lights flickered. The low hum deepened, vibrating through the floor and up their limbs. All 6 soldiers froze, antennae snapping upright. Then the holomap shifted on its own. No one had touched it. The projection dimmed to a single pulsing red line. Not standard Kryzal interface, but something alien. The line traced through the ship's decks, slowly circling, until it pointed directly at their location. The younger soldier chittered sharply, "It knows we're here." Before any could respond, the barracks door hissed open uncommanded. Beyond it, the corridor was pitch black, except for a faint pulsing glow far down the hall, like a beacon or a heartbeat. The hum grew louder. One by one, their plasma rifles powered down. Cells drained in unison. The faint glow of their armor glyphs dimmed. The ship wasn't just alive. It was listening. And somewhere beyond that darkness, she was moving. Kira Vance didn't stalk. She didn't sprint. She didn't need to. The viral seed embedded in her spine, a Terran Black Ops implant activated upon capture, had fully rooted itself into the spear's organic systems. The living metal no longer recognized Kryzal as its masters. It didn't recognize them at all. Its circulatory veins rerouted on command. Its gravity plates shifted at her signal. Its AI, once loyal, now whispered telemetry and life signs directly into the subdermal receiver in her ear. She had become the ship's new nervous system. Through the dim red pulse of the corridor veins, she could feel every soldier moving, every breath, every panicked step as they clustered in groups to feel less alone. She didn't need to fire a weapon. Not yet. Fear was more useful. Fear stretched the moment, drew the noose tighter, and it made them sloppy. On Deck 12, Commander Ryzek stood at the central node again. Mandibles flared in fury. Around him, 5 officers scrambled over controls, their claws tapping desperately at the living panels as they tried to force the ship back into compliance. The AI's voice stuttered through the chamber, broken and fragmented. Rerouting. Systems. Primary, unauthorized core control. Human signature. Silence. Ryzek snapped, his antenna cutting through the air in a sharp arc. He turned to his officers, his voice a low growl. "She is one. One. We are hundreds. Overwhelm her before this infection turns the spear into a coffin." One officer hesitated, her chitin dull in the dim light. "Commander," the soldiers whisper her name. They say she walks without sound, that the lights follow her, that the ship itself, her mandibles clicked nervously, wants her here. Ryzek's claws scraped against the panel, a harsh screech. "Then burn the decks she moves through. Vent the atmosphere if you must. I want her corpse." The AI stuttered again, its layered voice cutting through the chamber like a whisper. "Error. Venting disabled. Atmospheric controls. Rerouted. Command authority. Transferred. Human." The lights dimmed. Every vein in the chamber shifted from green to that deep, unnatural red. And for the first time, Commander Ryzek felt something he hadn't in over a decade of war. He didn't feel like a predator. He felt hunted. Kira's voice came through the chamber speakers, calm and level, as if she were standing in the room. Your ship has 3 choices left. None of them involve you keeping it. Ryzek spun toward the ceiling, his mandibles bared. Terran, face us if you seek death. Stop hiding. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. I'm not hiding. I'm pruning. The chamber floor shifted beneath them, a sharp, violent tilt that sent 2 officers sprawling into the living walls, where the veins coiled upward like tendrils and wrapped around their limbs. The walls weren't supposed to move. The officers screamed as the tendrils pulled them into the paneling, the glow of their armor glyphs fading as the walls sealed shut again, leaving no trace they'd ever been there. Ryzek froze, his claws digging into the floor as he steadied himself. The hum grew louder, vibrating in his chest. The remaining officers backed toward him, their antennae snapping wildly. The AI flickered one last time, its layered voice now fused with something colder, sharper. Kira's own voice threading through it. Command structure terminated. Human override complete. The Spear of Ruin belongs to Terran Command. By now, the crew had stopped calling her a prisoner. They whispered a different word, not in trade, not in Terran, but in their own tongue. A word that when translated meant, the Phantom Operator. Because that was what she'd become. Not just a captive, not even a soldier, a ghost inside their ship, turning their war machine into a weapon of her own. And as Kira moved deeper into the ship, her boots silent on the trembling floor, she whispered a single line into the comms, a line broadcast across every Kryzal frequency, echoing through every deck, every chamber, every mind. Your first human is the last one you'll ever capture. When the transmission ended, the hum didn't. It deepened, reverberating through the Spear of Ruin like a predator's growl. And the Kryzal finally realized they weren't fighting a soldier anymore. They were surviving her. The Spear of Ruin drifted in darkness. The Kryzal warship, once a beacon of conquest with its bioluminescent veins and thundering engines, now pulsed with a deep, unsettling rhythm. The living metal that formed its corridors and walls glowed only faintly, not green, not alive in the Kryzal sense, but red, like the slow heartbeat of something wounded or reborn. For the remaining crew, there were no more orders, no more patrols, only the hum vibrating through the decks like a warning they couldn't escape. Commander Rezek was one of the last still moving with purpose. The others, scattered, broken, murmuring in dark corners of the ship where the veins still pulsed weakly with green light as though clinging to what the spear had been. His claws scraped across the trembling floor as he strode toward the core chamber, the one place he believed Kira Vance had not yet reached. But the hum followed him. It wasn't directional. It was everywhere. He entered the core chamber, a cavernous space where the ship's AI nexus hung suspended, a massive sphere of living circuitry tethered by hundreds of pulsating conduits. The green glow of the AI's circulatory web was gone, replaced by red, every pulse synchronized with that deep hum that had haunted the ship for hours. At the base of the nexus, Kira was waiting. She wasn't armed. She didn't need to be. The ship itself responded to her presence, the veins on the walls brightening faintly with every measured step she took. Her gray eyes reflected the red glow, cold and steady, her breathing slow. Rezek's mandibles flared. Terran. His voice was low, laced with fury that barely masked the undertone of fear. You've turned our ship into a weapon, but weapons are only as strong as their wielder. Kill me and the spear dies with me. Kira tilted her head slightly, her gaze never leaving his. That's where you're wrong. She gestured, just a small movement of her fingers. The veins in the floor reacted instantly, shifting beneath Ryzek's feet, coiling upward around his legs like vines. He snapped his claws, slicing through 2, but for every tendril he cut, 2 more rose, pulling him to his knees. Her voice stayed calm, almost conversational. You thought this was about me killing you, or your ship, or your crew. It's not. This is about the message. The AI sphere flickered, its surface rippling with red waves as her implant synced fully. Across every deck, every chamber, every corridor, The ship's comms crackled to life. Kira's voice, threaded with the ship's deep hum, filled every space, reaching every surviving Kryzal. You thought humans were prey. You thought we'd scream, bend, break. This is your warning. Not just to the Kryzal, but to anyone listening. We don't break. We become the thing you fear. The hum deepened, resonating so powerfully through the ship that every Kryzal froze, their antenna snapping rigid. Kira's voice grew softer, but sharper, carrying more weight than any scream could. You captured your first human. She'll be the last one you ever see alive. On the bridge, the surviving crew watched as the ship's external systems powered down one by one. Thrusters, gone. Shields, gone. Communication relays, severed. The Spear of Ruin was no longer a warship, it was a beacon, a hollowed-out warning adrift in the void. Through the viewport, a Terran stealth cruiser emerged from the dark, its angular frame illuminated by the faint glow of the Kryzal vessel. The cruiser didn't fire. It didn't even signal. It just watched. Then a holographic transmission burst across the galactic network. Kira's face, calm and steady, framed by the red-lit veins of the spear. Her words echoed across every channel, reaching systems far beyond Kryzal territory. Humans are not prey. Do not capture us. Do not stalk us. Do not test us. Because when you do, we won't just survive. We'll take everything you thought was yours and make it ours. The transmission ended. The stealth cruiser vanished back into the void. And the Spear of Ruin, its crew silent, its systems crippled, its hum fading into the cold, drifted as a monument. A warning no species would ever forget. Kira Vance stood at the airlock, her boots steady on the trembling floor as the docking clamps sealed. Behind her, the spear's veins flickered one last time, the red glow dimming until only faint pulses of life remained. The envoy drone from the Terran cruiser floated beside her, projecting her extraction order. She glanced at the Kryzal insignia etched into the living walls, her gray eyes unreadable. First human captured, she murmured to herself. Last lesson they'll ever get. As the airlock sealed and the Terran ship pulled away, she didn't look back. Some legends don't need witnesses. They just need survivors to whisper the truth. If this HFY story sent chills down your spine, tell us your city, country and time in the comments, and share it with someone who loves watching humanity turn fear into dominance.